Hey there, good people, and welcome back to the DNP podcast. I'm your host, Debo Agbede, and I'm ready for another week of NFL action. This week we'll discuss the Detroit Lions being on the brink of elimination after a damaging loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Also, the Jaguars and their statement win over the Broncos, opening up a path to the 1 seed. And as always, the Pick 6, where I make 6 picks against spreads for this weekend's games. This pod is available on Spotify, YouTube, and other podcasts, so like, rate, subscribe, and all that good stuff so you can stay up to date with each upload. Well, a team whose season certainly hasn't gone to plan is the Detroit Lions, who fell to 8-7 and need significant help to get into the playoffs. Lions fans certainly had Super Bowl aspirations for their squad this year after a 17-point lead in the NFC Championship game in 23, the Levi's, you all remember that, and the 1 seed in 24 last year when they went 15-2 but lost in the divisional round to the Washington Commanders. Now 25 looks set to be a lost season. And why do I say it's a lost season? Well, mainly because their only route into the playoffs now is to win out against the Vikings away on Christmas Day, and then the Bears away on Week 18, when the Bears will have obviously be jostling for seeding now. They look set to be winning the NFC North at this moment in time after the impressive win against the Packers, and the Lions going into that game with most likely having the playoffs already done and be eliminated from there at that point. So it's tough to imagine that even the Lions themselves win out. But on top of that, they need the Packers to lose out themselves against the Ravens and the Vikings. Now, the Ravens, we're not even sure if Lamar's going to play in Week 17 this weekend. And even if he does play, like, the Ravens this season haven't shown to be a consistent outfit, especially when you're considering the game is in Lambeau, the Packers off of a loss will want to confirm their own spot into the playoffs. It's difficult to believe that the Packers are going to lose both while the Lions win both. I don't know what the percentage chances of that on any of those playoff calculators will be, but I can't imagine it's too high. So for the way I see it, the Lions are effectively eliminated from playoff contention. Now, how and why did they turn up in this situation at the minute? I would say the inconsistent form they've showed this past season. You look at the fact that from weeks 5 till weeks 15, they were alternating wins and losses. Win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Like, that's just that sort of inconsistent play and that inconsistency from, I guess, both sides of the ball being able to perform in one game and to have it be, have ability to make a run, because the NFC this year wasn't one where you could kind of dilly-dally in a sense and, slip your way into a playoff spot unless you're in the NFC South, but that's not the conversation at the minute. But when you're in the NFC North with the Bears playing as they have, on an incredible winning streak at the minute, the Packers themselves, who, with Mike Parsons and with a defense with Jeff Hafley at the helm, they weren't exactly, they were still getting the wins when they needed to. And the Lions team that just couldn't find any bit of form, any bit of consistency in the defense especially, right? That they have, the offense, however, you want to say they've lost Ben Johnson and missed him in a way. Like, Gibbs has still got his numbers, Amon-Ra has still been performing at a great level, Jared Goff still throws for 300 pretty much every game, right? So you're not saying that the offense has held them back in any way, but you're just saying in the situations that they just haven't had that extra bit to get them over the line in most of these games. So, the way you see it, it is a case of, inconsistent play and inconsistent performances from the Lions team. I guess you could look at the injuries that this team has suffered in a sense, because Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch are in IR. That's their starting safety duo. That would be pretty big. Terran Arnold in IR, Sam Laporta in IR. It's like the last 2 years, again, on the defensive side of the ball, have kind of been marred by injuries and haven't allowed them to have their best players on the field. But again, it's the NFL, right? So as much as you want to say that, injuries have, hurt them. Like every team faces big injuries, so it's not um it's not an excuse. It can certainly be seen as, an unfortunate circumstance, especially when it happens 2 years in a row. You guess you probably look at the training staff and wonder why those sorts of things happen. But you could also look at the 49ers and the fact that they have clinched themselves a playoff spot, 11-4. They've even missed their quarterback Brock Purdy for a good period, and like Fred Warner out for the season, Nick Bosa out for the season, and they've still kind of kept themselves moving and have made themselves have earned themselves a playoff spot. So you look at that and you say, again, Lions got to do better there. So you say, okay, again, how could they go into next season moving forward? Because you look at the NFC Championship game from 2 years back and in the 1 seed last year, you ask yourself, have the Lions missed their window? Is this a situation now where, the Bears are coming into form, the Packers have, finding their groove with Jordan Love? Are the Vikings going to be this bad on a year-to-year basis? Like, you ask yourself the question, like, okay, have we lost our opportunity to make our way to the Super Bowl? Because those are certainly things you have to question from the perspective of the Detroit Lions, because Ben Johnson's now your enemy. Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator, like, he's gone. So do you hope that your coordinators will just eventually evolve and bed in the way that your previous ones have? But even in that point, you look at the offensive coordinator, John Morton, this year, and Dan Campbell has taken over the play calling. So in that, are you now looking elsewhere for your offensive coordinator? Are you now saying that our offense kind of needs Dan Campbell to be the all-seeing eye, and in fact our coordinator is not doing the job the way we want him to, and he's not play calling the way we want him to? Because he clearly shown that with making that form of decision to take over the play calling. So it is a very, potentially troubling perspective you take with the Detroit Lions for not just the way this year's gone, but the way things are going to look in the future. Because, again, as I say, that this year going the way it has, it could easily be the norm, a sign of things to come with regards to how your division looks. Because even the way the Bears look now, like, yes, they are winning games by almost miracles, especially the last one, but you know what Ben Johnson is. Caleb has shown high highs, and with more experience that could easily come with more consistency, and those high highs being like playing at in 80% of his potential moving forward, as opposed to probably say a 55-60% on a consistent basis. So there is definitely a way to look at the Lions and say, right, we need to sort of make not wholesale, but make big tweaks that can get us back to where we want to be and get us back to that double-digit win team that it looks unlikely that they'll be. Yes, they've got a couple big free agents to come. Alex Anzalone in the defense, Al-Qadina Muhammad, who has 8 sacks this year. So there'll be decisions to be made there with regards to bringing them back or not. But you have pieces there that obviously could look to maintain a high level of performance on one side of the ball. But yeah, there is just an element of, right, we need to sort things out and make a kind of a big decision here, or else we'll be left in the wayside moving forward. Alright, Sunday provided a shock to most, but not to all, this guy, at Mile High when the Jacksonville Jaguars took Duval to the Broncos and ran out 34-20 winners in the game. It is a huge statement win for a team that clearly came to this game with a chip on its shoulder. with head coach Liam Cohen lamenting the lack of attention his squad has been getting through their 6-game winning streak. Well, Liam, you've got everyone's attention now, because a win streak that includes the Chargers, Cardinals, Titans, Colts, Jets, and Broncos, with significant points outlays in each game, you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, Jacksonville, like, you're a team that does have potential to make a bit of a run here and make a serious, route to the number one seed in the AFC, which, at a certain point in the season, you would have, said that's not possible with obviously the way the Colts has started, 7-1 and looking hot, and then even the Texans rise up the plate. The Jaguars almost seem like a little bit of an afterthought, a little bit, in the shadow of their division rivals. But now, obviously, with a win at Mile High, a team that had won, their previous 12 or 20, like a ridiculous home game winning streak for a team that was and still is the current one seed in the AFC. You're looking at it and you're saying, okay, that is a real statement, that is a real marker to be put down to the rest of the league that, okay, we're a serious team. We are, going to look like we're going to win our division, which I predicted preseason, by the way, just so everyone knows. And can go into the playoffs with real confidence, because you look at the AFC playoff picture and you say it's the Broncos, a team that they've just beaten, the Pats, with Drake May having his first playoff experience, the Steelers, who have looked good of late, but again have their own frailties, and you're unsure whether they can maintain that level when they get to playoff time. The Chargers, who they beat 35-6, the Bills, who you look at and say are a main contender, and if the playoffs were to start today, it would be Jags, Bills, and Jacksonville for the wild card round. And the Texans, who, again have a steely defense, offense that has a lot to be desired. But again, you're saying that and you're saying, wow, okay, you've got a real chance to win the AFC here and a real ability to, make a run. And, you look at that and you say, fair play for, a regime in their first year in James Gladstone and Liam Cohen, because, initially Trent Baalke was going to remain as general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you look at that and you say, okay, like, we haven't really had much sustained success with this guy. Why is he, why would he stick around for multiple head coaches? And then a decision was made afterwards, essentially to lure Liam Cohen out of the Bucs OC job, and you say, okay, yeah, come and reform Trevor Lawrence, come and make our offense a lot more threatening than it had been under those late periods with Doug Peterson. And, it started a bit rough. Trevor still had very high highs and very low lows, but clearly as the season's gone on and has, he's gotten more used to his system, and heck, Jacoby Myers trade that is looking very shrewd, because it was a fourth and a sixth for a guy that, again, once he came in, the offense looked a lot more clean and a lot more solid, and was basically getting a lot more points when they needed it, and has been rewarded now with an extension in the 3 years, 60 million, 40 million that guaranteed. And okay, yeah, that is clearly a move that's worked, and a move that has again gotten this Jacksonville Jaguars team to look like a serious part of the NFL season going into December and January. So you got to say a fair play to that. And with a remaining schedule of at Colts versus Titans, I believe they only need maybe one more win to wrap up the AFC South. So getting that home playoff game, and again, you kind of look at the AFC playoff picture and you see how it plays out. But I'm saying if the Jags Chargers, I mean, we've seen that play out before. Jags Bills would be a tough draw, but that would be the game of the weekend if that were to come about. But again, you look at getting that game at home in front of your fans, and then you've already proven you can go to Mile High if need be. You definitely would look at the Pats, and you'd say we can back ourselves because, again, if you're going to the Broncos with that chip on your shoulder and you're motivated the way they have been, and a defense that with Trayvon Walker, Josh Hines-Allen, Devin Lloyd playing a lot better than he has in recent years, you're saying, okay, yeah, let's make a run, let's show people what we are. So, heck, I mean, once I do the review of my preseason predictions, I'm going to admit there's not a lot that went great here, but one pick that I can definitely look at and say, yeah, I got right, was the Jags looking like a much better outfit in winning the AFC South. So, heck, I'll give myself a pat on the back for picking the Jags to compete this year. But, yeah, no, this is definitely a team to look out for now, especially after the way they performed last weekend. Alright, it's time for your favourite part of the show and mine. It's time for the Pick Six. Yes, when I take 6 games on the weekend, pick them against a spread and show that I'm a smart ass, or at least try to, because again, this past weekend didn't exactly go how I intended. 3-3, so 500 record last week takes us to a total record of 43-52 over the year. So, still in the negative, even though I think there's definitely been a mid-season uptick. So, taking the momentum into next year, where I hopefully, actually be in the positive, be in the green, as opposed to being this far in the red. But anyway, before we get into this week's picks, we'll just review last week's. So, starting off with Bears plus 1.5 against the Packers. That one obviously looked very ropey for the large majority of the game, the way Malik Willis was playing, the way the Bears obviously down 10 with like 2 minutes to go in the game, and they force overtime and they end up winning it. But, a win's a win, and, the Bears march on to very much look like they're going to win the NFC North, which, what a turnaround for them after, what last year was for them with Eberflus, but now Ben Johnson clearly putting this team on the right track moving forward, and Caleb Williams making those clutch plays, like, what a throw that was in overtime there. So, fair play to them and fair play to me for, making that pick. Second, Bills minus 10 at the Browns. Thought that would be a bit more of a drumming. Bills still come out with the win, but geez, yeah, they did their hardest almost not to cover. Even Shador handing them the ball twice with them 2 picks, but still very, very tight game, and 3-point win for the Bills there. So fair play to the Browns for covering. Vikings minus 3 at the Giants. That was a 3-point win for them. They obviously have no playoff aspirations. They'll be looking to Christmas with Brosnan playing, hoping to just get a win there, but obviously tough for them because with JJ McCarthy injured again, you're not really getting a look at the guy that you want to get a look at and want to make sure that he proves that he's the franchise guy. But obviously getting the win over the Giants. They feature again on the Pick Six, so we'll see which way they're going their game. But obviously looking at the number 1 overall pick, at least from a fan perspective, we'll see how the players perform this coming week. Next up, Broncos minus 3 versus Jaguars. Well, yep, I went on the wrong side of this one for this game, and as I said in the last section, Jaguars very much put a statement out there that they are not to be taken lightly, so fair play for them to get the outright win by 2 scores. Texans minus 40.5 with the Raiders. As you're just seeing this, I was like, Jesus, Genty gutting through this defense, like you could argue. Maybe the Texans took the Raiders, a bit lightly. You could argue. I mean, they are human at the end of the day. They do see what the Raiders have done this season. It's not too far fetched, but they still get the win. The offense doesn't move as well as I definitely hoped, but they get the win regardless, so they don't really care about whether I cover or not. And then the last pick, Niners minus 6 at the Colts, because Philip Rivers was going to have 2 covers in a row, which he didn't, and Birdie throws 5 picks, so the Niners, with the inside track to the 1 seed, are definitely feeling good about themselves. So that's last week. This is this week. 6-0, people. Let's do it. Okay, so first up, we've got Cowboys -7 at Commanders on Christmas Day. I just think the Commanders, Marcus Mariota, even DNP, get it, in the injury report. So we're looking at probably Josh Johnson hoops for the Commanders on Christmas, and the Cowboys, who are coming in pretty much fully fit, at Pickens with a contract coming up at the end of the season. Obviously CD, like an offense that can still put up points, put up numbers on the Commanders defense that has just been DOA all season long. So I think the Cowboys can put up points, and the Josh Johnson led Commanders defense can't really do what is necessary for the cover here. So I'm pretty happy taking that one there. Next pick, Texans +2.5 at the Chargers. I think obviously the Chargers are playing with their backup tackles, and the Texans, who have Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter, and just the defense as a whole to give Justin Herbert fits for the year. I think obviously coming off of that Raiders game, there is an element of we left a bit out there. Like, come on, we let the Raiders hang around a bit too long. You're not going to look at the Chargers and take them any bit lightly. And, just recalling what they did in that Bills game, and just what they've done all season, really, not even just that Bills game, in terms of being a terror for offenses and quarterbacks in general. It just seems like, the fact that they're underdogs in this game, I feel like it's going to be a tight one here. So that 2.5, I'm happy to take with the Texans there. Next up, Packers -2.5 against the Ravens. As I'm recording now, Lamar did not practice, again, DNP, in today. Well, he showed up as a DNP in the injury report, so that fact definitely weighs on my mind in terms of the Ravens being able to, hang with a Green Bay team that Jordan Love and Malik Willis were limited in the injury report. So then that's playing a big part in the pick here. Is that, okay, the Packers are going to have their quarterback, the Ravens won't have theirs. And again, with the way the Ravens have played this season, even with Lamar, it's not great, and it's not one that I believe can go into Lambeau Field and get the win necessary to stay in the playoff hunt in a Packers team that will be looking to secure their own spot. So that's one pick that I've got there. Next up, Browns +3.5 versus Steelers. I feel like this is one that looks like almost your classic Tomlin trap game, your classic game that's like, oh, how have you managed to lose that even? Because you look ahead to the Ravens game the week after, your divisional opponent Browns, who last week kept it close with Buffalo, a Browns team that, with Myles Garrett looking to break that sack record, doing it against the Steelers as well, familiar opponent. It just seems like there are a lot of elements here that could be a potential banana skin for the Pittsburgh Steelers going into a matchup with the Ravens next week, which again could be just a bit of a poop show, for lack of a better term. But with the Steelers win by a field goal, a rough, dogged little arrangement there, it has all the makings of one of those games that Mike Tomlin or the Steelers in general just don't perform to their highest level, and the Browns could make a bit of a difficult scenario for their rivals there. Number 5, Tank Bowl. Give me the Raiders -1.5 versus the Giants. So Raiders, in my mind, just have, I'd say, definitely the 2 best offensive players in the entire game, with Gentry and Bowers. I feel like that talent on that side of the ball will take the Raiders through in this game. It's in the Allegiant Stadium, so home field advantage. Dart, since Kafka's come in, hasn't shown the same levels that he was with Daboll around, so that could obviously be a question mark whether that was the right decision to sack Daboll, because watching or seeing the Giants in recent weeks, you're really unsure of whether he has, I guess, what it takes to be the franchise quarterback, or definitely not the same level of confidence you had in those first couple of weeks for sure. So I do feel like the Raiders, especially with such a tight line, just basically a pick 'em. So I'm pretty happy to take the Raiders at home with that home field winning in that one. Last pick, give me the Bears +3 at the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. So that'll be a great one to end that Sunday of games. +3 again. Two Titans, two teams. Not that type of Titans, but two teams that are obviously looking to actually both have a path for the 1 seed actually. So yeah, that is one for sure that will be a bit of a barn burner. Believe both defense are kind of prone to points on either side, so I don't believe the Niners run away with it by any means. So that +3 line, I'm very happy to be on that side of that pick there. So that's the pick 6, and that's the episode of DNP podcast, episode 20. That's a milestone right there. I'm happy to take it, and especially to ring in the holiday season. Merry Christmas. I've got my Christmas sweater. This is Deadpool. So I'm obviously ready for the Christmas spirit, the most wonderful time of the year. Merry Christmas to you, one and all, going into the holiday season. Enjoy the football. Enjoy, your time with your family, or if not, enjoy your time with Christmas in general. Happy holidays if you don't celebrate it. And have a good weekend and have a good one. See you next week. Bye bye.